Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Hess Hogs 4. This video is just me sharing some of the tips and tricks I've learned along the way. I know I've got a lot of messages from folks just asking, what do you do with this, Josh, or how do you make that work? And again, this is just my opinion on things that I use. You may have something that works completely different. If it works, do it. The pits that I use are from Char Griller. They're stick burn, if you will. There's nothing to plug in. You got to manage your fire. And over here is your firebox, right? And if you know about that, this is your firebox, and then your heat and smoke comes in, and it goes up, and it goes out that tube right there. This firebox is so important you keep it clean in between cooks. The reason why is when air goes in, if you've got a bunch of ash down there, it's going to affect your airflow, and it's going to affect the way your fire burns. It's going to affect the smoke that goes through your smoker, and honestly, it can affect the taste. So I encourage you, clean your firebox out after every use. It's your choice, but for best results, clean your firebox out. On your grate, you're going to find over time it gets so hot that it starts to kind of warp it. Sometimes they break even. I kind of flip them over each and every turn just so they get an even amount of fire, if you will. But what that does is it helps keep it from being on the ground to where you wouldn't have the airflow underneath. So that's kind of some Firebox Essentials 101. Some firebox handles get hot. This one does. On my Char Griller Competitive Pro, it's got a different handle where I never have to worry about the heat on it. It's your preference. If you do, just be smart. Don't burn your hand. When we think about hand protection, I've got a set of gloves over here. These are from Cosmos, and these actually I'll use when I'm operating this pit. These are good to handle anything hot. The downfall for these is if I want to put a nitrile glove over that, it's really hard to place over here, so I've got a different combo I use when, say, I'm handling pork or I'm handling chicken that's hot on the grill, and I don't want to, say, use a set of tongs or something like that. So that's what that is right there. Reynolds wrap is my best friend. I get the heavy duty one. It's the extra wide. It helps when you do ribs. You ever do that? You wrap it and all of a sudden it punctures it, whatever. One, it might not have been long enough. Two, it might not have been wide enough. This solves your problems. It's heavy duty and it never let me down. Moving along, I always have a couple grill brushes. One, obviously, to scrape my grill, and I usually don't have to do that. What I use these for really is just to help manage my firebox. When I have the fire going, and both pits are off right now, but when I have the fire going, this helps me just kind of keep it separated, go left to right, or separate, down the middle, depending on the wood that I'm using. But these come in handy. The longer the handle, the better, because it puts you further away from the heat. These trays are a lifesaver. I get these at Sam's Club. I'm sure you can get them at Costco. I know you can buy them at Walmart. You can buy them about anywhere, but when you talk about price to value, the best place I found is Sam's Club. And they come in handy for several reasons. In my pit, you can kind of come over this. When I'm cooking in here, I'll put water in the trays, and they're also great just trays to catch any grease, any drippings, anything to make it easier to clean your pit. But these things are great. There's a lid that's sold with them as well. Of course, it's sold separately. But if you don't have them, get them. Kind of moving along, this is what I clean my pits with. And it's citrus safe. And I've got the actual scrubber, if you will, right here. You get them at Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever. And it's simple. You spray your grate. You give it about a minute. You take this brush, put some pressure, you rub it down. Then you hit it with some water, do the brush again if need be, and then you towel dry it. It keeps your grill grates safe. I've never had an issue with it, and I'd recommend it for anyone wanting to use it. Going into charcoal, I get a lot of folks ask me, Josh, what charcoal do you like to use? I like to use lump charcoal. There's two brands I like to use. One is a timber charcoal. I like it. I never have any issues with it. It burns as hot as I need it to burn. It burns as long as I need it to burn. It's a great charcoal, and something else I appreciate about it is it's local. It's made here in Missouri. And the one you see me talk about most often is Blues Hog. I've just had more luck with Blues Hog. I like the flavor of this lump charcoal over timber. Both of them are great. Blues Hog generally costs $1 or $2 more per bag. In my opinion, I think it's worth it. But those are the two lump charcoals that I like to use. The wood I talk about is two different woods. One of the woods, grab it, is blues hog, right? And if you notice, see that all right, it's a smaller chunk. There's no bark on it. These burn really clean. They don't fluctuate your fire temperature very much, and I have a lot of success with it. When I'm doing smaller cooks, say no more than 4 hours, I really like to use this wood. When I'm doing something a little bit longer, and again, made in Missouri, these are competition chunks. These are made in Missouri, I can't say the name right, but they're in Missouri. These chunks are a bit bigger. They've got the bark on it, but to be honest with you, they burn pretty clean. They burn consistent, and usually the chunks are about the same size, so it's easier to manage your fire. A lot of times when you put wood in on your lump, you're going to see your fire spike because wood's going to burn a little bit hotter than your charcoal, but it burns quicker. So just be mindful, you don't want to put 6 of these on your pit while you're trying to cook, because you'll see 100 to 125 degrees spike in your temperature, and that's not necessarily a good thing. It's called low and slow for a reason. The lower the temperature, the more smoke, the more it absorbs, the more flavor you have in your meat. So that's the wood that I like to use between those two. I've used other ones over time, but I really hang my hat on those two, and I really hang my hat on those two lump charcoals. As we're moving over here, this is so handy. If you don't have one, get one. This is not the one that has the release, but I start all my fires with this guy right here. Something to be mindful of, if you say don't spend the money, if you're not careful, if you buy a less expensive one, those beads will break. So you may have a hot thing of lump charcoal or charcoal in there, and just the heat over time will cause it to break, and you're not going to have a very good day if that happens. I found that out the hard way about 6 months ago. Since then, I just use those. As I'm coming over, we talked about other gloves. These are cotton gloves. I ordered these online, but the St. Louis barbecue store, I went there for the first time yesterday. Great store. They've got these gloves. They're inexpensive. You can treat them as disposable, but you can wash them and wear them. What I like about them is when I'm handling ribs or I'm handling pork butt or whatever on this, either one of my pits, I put these on. I put my nitro gloves over that. They fit just fine. My hands are protected, and I'm not getting cotton and I'm not getting other glove on my meat. So if you don't have this and this, I suggest you get it. These are not that expensive. They were hard to come by at the beginning of COVID. Now things have worked themselves out, and they're pretty easy to get. About to wrap up, it's always good to have some twine. You can get it anywhere. It's just good to tie food off. You think about what we have going into the Christmas season, where you're going to be tying a prime rib roast, maybe you're going to have to tie a turkey or whatever, stuff it. It's just good to have that. It's handy to have it. Whenever I've cleaned my grates, you see me talk about it all the time. Some people will put like a cooking spray or a grill spray. I just like using the duck fat. There's nothing that special about it, honestly. But when I season my pits, it's what I use, and I spray it on there every time before I put meat, vegetables, whatever on there. I order this online. You can get it in cases of 6. It's not that expensive, but it's up to you for what you like to use. And lastly, this is kind of a newer toy. This right here I do for a couple things. One, after I clean the grills for the water spray, you pump it and it sprays. But two, whenever I'm doing ribs, pork, or anything that needs to be sprayed, it holds a pretty good amount of juice. So apple juice, whatever mixture you have. But it comes in handy for when you're spraying and spritzing. You're not having to go and pull the trigger. You just put your thumb down and it's done. It saves you a little bit of time. Because let's face it, if you're looking, you're not cooking. And if you can get 30 seconds back after each time you have to spray something, that adds up over time. I know there's things that I didn't mention. There may be other questions that you have. I may have not explained something the way you needed explained. Reach out to me. Let me know if I can help with anything. If you have a best practice or something that you use, please share it. We're on this barbecue journey together, and it's just best to share knowledge. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate the support, and I look forward to cooking for you in the future. Thanks.